questions on the table. A lot of our people seek answers, so I must ask the questions so they can get the results of the answer. So the first question I have for you is when the Moorish American was established since the loss of the identity and reawakened by the Prophet Noble Ali, was it mainly to put men more upon it more than women?
No, it's a balance. Back in the time of Noble Drew Ali, he had grand sheiks that were women, sheiks that were women. That they ran temples. So, woman who was on the Supreme Grand Council from the very beginning of the Supreme Grand Council. So it's always been women who were heads in this organization, the Moorish Science Temple Program. Always.
Right. So you saying with the woman having that authority, she has equality dealing with the status and the direction of authority for the temple as well as the man has.
Yeah, of course.
The reason I ask that, when you deal with the church structure, you more have the male is more dominant and he controls the situation more than the woman. Even if she do have the intelligence or have the demeanor to do as well as him, she still gets belittled as secondary.
Can't speak on what goes on in other organizations. I just know in the Moorish Science Temple of America, women are welcome to exceed and excel to the highest of their potential, not nobody else's limitation.
Question number 2. It's a question with an answer with a question. Can higher self pass away? No. Why? Because Allah is in man. So what about the woman and why is she being left out of the question?
That's a good question. I like that one. But in the aspect of what it's talking about as man, it's talking about humanity. Period. You can read into it when it says woman.
Right.
So when you say man, you can't speak of man without woman because there isn't a man breathing that didn't come from a woman.
Okay.
Period.
Right.
So when you say man, you say humanity automatically because he came from a woman.
Right. So I'm gonna switch it up just a little bit because I was texting one of the community activists. She texted me back. She said, I said, would you have any questions for the Divine Minister about the Moorish Science Temple? She said, yeah, I do have a question. So the question was, there's not a lot of Moors in North Carolina. That's what she's speaking to. Not a lot like it's a population. She's saying there's not a lot of Moors that's active in the community. So she's saying, why are the Moors lacking in being community involved as far as like uplifting the community? Basically the work I do, how can they build a relationship to work with each other among the community? So she's saying, why do the Moors lack community involvement? She don't see a lot of Moors involved, like being at the city council meetings. If there's a killing in the street, stop the violence. It's basically like the Moors are more like segregated. I guess they're on temple time. They do what's right as far as the temple, but as far as getting involved in the streets and what's really going on in the reality around us in our environment, what's the situation with that?
I would say it depends on the Moors that you're dealing with. I'm just now getting into the state of North Carolina. Been here 2 years this time. So I know of Moors active in Charlotte. I don't know. I don't see a lot of Moors active here. I don't know of a lot of Moors that are actually out here to begin with. I hear that they are a lot of people saying that they're Moors, but of course you're born that. But when you say you're Moorish American and you follow Prophet Noble Drew Ali, that's a big difference from just saying I'm a Moor. Everybody out here are Moor. They just think they Negro colors in life.
Right.
When you say you're a Moorish American following Prophet Noble Drew Ali, you are active. Prophet Noble Drew Ali tells us to be active, not passive. So we are automatically activists when we become a part of the movement. So I don't really know what people are seeing or what she is seeing, but she's saying she's not seeing Moors. I can't speak on behalf of the Moors and their leadership here. I don't know what kind of leadership they got, um, and where their leadership is leading them to.
Right.
So I can't speak on organizations and those situations that I'm not a part of and know nothing about. But I do know that Moors, as taught by Noble Drew Ali, inside the Moor Science Temple of America, are taught to be active, and we are active.
So, myself, I do study groups to educate our people. Um,
Good.
but when our people go on YouTube or they find news articles or federal indictments on these moles that claim to be righteous moles, and you have these moles claiming that they have status corrections, name changes, and they went through all the proper procedures, quote unquote. That's what they say. Not saying it's validated. Um, but every time you turn around, they're pushing information to our people, but the information is coming back as dog. It's like you educating our people and tell us to know your constitutional rights. Proclaim your nationality. Do this, do that. Um, but they're giving themselves titles as grand sheiks or this is their temple or this city, but they have no jurisdiction. They're still being tampered with, like they're still owned by the county.
Um, I see it. I hear about it. There's a lot of Moors who come to the Moor Science Temple of America. Some of them purchase some material from Moors in the Moor Science Temple of America, and then they run out and start their own Moors group, saying it is the Moor Science Temple of America.
Dad, I'm hungry.
So, in saying that, most of the people who are coming up saying that they have this packet or they have this status correction issue or program or project, it's something that they made up. Really. They take this piece from here and this piece from here to try to stand on a position. And I'm not going to argue that they shouldn't try to stand on a position. But because they have not went to the Moor Science Temple of America and been educated by those who are ordained ministers of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, what they get is a bunch of sovereignty paperwork. Now, I have to say it like that because real sovereigns don't send in paperwork like that. So, but it's a bunch of paperwork that has relevancy in what it's saying, but in the way that Moors apply it and put it out and try to use it and sell it as actual paperwork as opposed to what it could be, what it is. I ain't even gonna give Moors idea because that'll be the next thing they're trying to do, right? That's what it is. They just make up stuff. As far as temples are concerned, a temple is not a home. It is a building that you go into. You can have study groups in homes, not temples. It doesn't make any sense when you understand what a temple is and how it's structured, how it's formed. You should have enough members to be able to get a building, either rent, lease, or own, to where you can function. If it is a home, the home must be dedicated to that alone, not just the home of somebody and y'all meeting every now and then. Because there's not we need headquarters. Temple is a headquarters for the people in the city. And the temple is ran by a Grand Sheik that is appointed by the Grand Major Temple in Chicago. Now, it's a whole bunch of them in Chicago right now. So you have sheiks and divine ministers who have come out of that body, who are willing to teach the people, but it's not under the same structure. that they're doing. And the reason being is because a lot of things in Chicago is off. Just to be honest, it's off. So what Moors have been doing is putting together paperwork to remedy themselves right now because the administrations within the temples are off. The prophet said, temple is right, the prophet is right. Temple is not right, the prophet is not right. The temple is right, the prophet is right. It's these people in administrations who are misreading the prophet's teaching and then selling off stuff, little pieces of the prophet's teachings that somebody lectured back in the 40s and 50s, and now that's the new agenda that they're trying to make their money off of because they lazy and don't know how to do anything else. And that's the honest truth, you know. Those Moors who understand real status correction, we have our